super excited to have him here. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about him. And I don't think most people do. He is, first of all, his name is Dan Casciato. Dan Casciato. He is a man of mystery. He's an artist, an engineer, an animist, and a farmer. He is also the 14th descendant of the Count of Monte Cristo, and his hard-scrabble immigrant family are responsible for bringing kohlrabi to the region. Yes. And it's up to you all to decide which one of those things is true. Please, put it together for Dan Casciato!
Hey everybody, good morning.
Sweet.
You're doing great.
Hey everybody, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for coming out in this cold mountain air today to join us. Thank you Counterculture, thank you Citizen Vinyl, thanks Justin, Moss for telling us about trusting your process, maybe having a microphone that works all the time. Yes, okay, great. Thank you. In this season of gratitude, I really want to make sure we thank the trees for helping bring us this cold mountain air. Really want to thank the insects and the animals that support us in our community and this ecology. Thank you, coffee, for coming so far and being a part of our community today. Thank you, water, for the coffee, but for everything, really. Supporting all of life, all the time. Just thank you. And now that I've gotten all those kind of more important people acknowledged and brought into the space here, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. And my name's Dan, like you heard so many minutes ago, man of mystery. This is a picture of me and others, of course, but yeah, these elders you see here are my great-grandparents, John and Carmela Orsini, now my ancestors. A few of my cousins, friends, were in their backyard in southwestern Pennsylvania. That's where I was born. In a sort of Italian-American immigrant family container, Roman Catholic religious container, and overall essentially a supportive family system. Now, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about storytelling, and thank you, Brent, for sharing that introduction about stories and keeping stories with us and carrying things along and helping things move through us. Stories help us to alchemize our lives and move into who we are becoming. And since we're talking about stories, I want to share a beginning. And this is part of my beginning. One of the things that is still a thread in my life that I still weave with is this thread that my imagination is really my superpower, or one of my superpowers. I used to do this a lot as a kid, kind of freaked out the grandparents, but they were ultimately wonderful people who I cherish and remember often. You want to do one? Stand in front of me. Yeah. You! I'm like. So another, just speaking of families and traditions, these early experiences really inform what happens later. In dynamic, nonlinear systems, early initial conditions really can contribute greater to what happens in the future. And one of the traditions that I remember from this early time in my life was a tradition we called Manure Sunday. Now, Manure Sunday, my great-grandparents would host the family at their home in suburban Pittsburgh, and the men would leave early in the cold morning of late winter or early spring to just shovel manure into the back of our pickup trucks or buckets or bags. And the women would get together and they would cook a meal and prepare the space for us to all reconvene later in the day as a family. And we did this so that we all had fertilizer for our gardens and so that we could all feed ourselves for the rest of the year with food and medicine and flowers. And if you can't read this, it says, in this family, shit is it. And we celebrated this from an early time, the way that compost works on us, and this foundational cycle on Earth where the things that were before and have either died or lost their utility are used to feed and nourish what is coming next, what we don't yet know about, and the people we don't yet know. And so this is also a thread that I'm still weaving with today. And this is still a part of my story. Before I became an engineer, which is how I make a living now, I spent a lot of time as an artist. When I moved to Asheville in 2007, I was a working glass blower and glass artisan. And over time, art and creativity have really changed for me and evolved into more about a process and less about an object that is complete or an element of completion. I'm no longer that interested in technique or the ways in which something appeals aesthetically when it's being looked at. This is a piece of work that is on display in my house, but I still take a paintbrush to it whenever I want. And it is through this lens of art and creativity that I've come to understand things like complexity, paradox, existence, the fractal, vibrational underpinnings of reality. I mean, how many people have turned to their art or creativity to process a natural disaster, a flood, shared trauma? And so this lens of inquiry, art as a lens of inquiry, is really a big part of where my story is at now. And it was a big part of where my story was last year at the end of the summer, which historically, in my own cycle, is a time of great inspiration and creative energy. And so last year I was really feeling this again and noticing how inspired I was and how full of ideas I was. And also, what was stirring in me was really about community, was really about a need to create with other people, and like Brent was saying earlier, to really embody a process, or learn more about embodiment and bodies, and knowledge that we gain through experience, not just understanding something intellectually and being really cerebral and vocal because we've read a book or heard a story or encountered a podcast that lit us up, but really deepening what it means to understand with bodies through storytelling. And one of the key themes that I noticed in this time of reflection and inspiration was the way in which other cultures of a different lingual lineage, speaking a different language, and therefore having a different mindset about things, have historically understood creativity as being intertwined with the concepts of medicine, of healing, of spirituality, and of personal power, and that there's no separation between the way we create and the way we serve our medicine, or the way we heal, and the way that those things are all tied together. And I really started understanding how this is something I wanted to embody because I was curious about what it would mean for the story of my life and the community that I wanted to work with to make some art. Some of the other things that became really kind of pivotal for me in this process was understanding that the community I wanted to invite would be invited into a place where we were really focused on honoring and respecting the natural world, the planet where we're all from, where we all live, where we're all in community, and that there is an invisible world that is also present here, one that is mysterious and unseen and felt only through these ways of sensing with our intuition, with our understanding. Asking permission for me, as a person who looks like I do, light-skinned, white, privileged, overeducated, hyperliterate, resourced, supported, this felt like a point of inquiry that was important for me and important for my ancestors, and most certainly important for my descendants, and the community that is here and would be participating. So asking permission, especially if we are going to be honoring the earth and thinking into natural processes and cycles, became an important and critical part of this process. And reciprocity and gifting were really this way to counter what I feel like is an overarching metastructure of capitalism that we all deal with and live inside every day of our lives. That capital is really part of all of our decision making, helps you understand like where you are in a family, where you are in the world, what kind of education you're going to be, how much does it cost, how much am I going to make. I really wanted to create some art that was outside of this thinking and free from commodification, pricing, and money. And the last thing, which is not really last, it just looked nice on the slide to be at the bottom, but being playful really allows us to be open-ended, to be in an experience that is most likely going to be enjoyable without needing to reach a sense of finitude. It's not finished. It's not like marching towards some predefined endpoint. We're playing because that's the process. That's what we're doing. And so, with this in mind, creativity, spirituality, medicine, healing, and personal power, combined with these other elements, really came up with an offering that I called the Rites of Spring. And the Rites of Spring was a 2-day immersive ritual theater that occurred in the forest at night that 30 of our friends and community members, some of which are in this room, came together to collaborate around storytelling, ancient myth, being on the land, being with each other, finding out what our mixed medicine was and is, and feeling into the things that we could do together to make the storytelling important to us. Another inspiration for this project were the Eleusinian Mysteries. For 2,000 plus years, there was a rite of initiation, a rite of passage that a team of wise priestesses would orchestrate for thousands of participants year after year in pre-Athenian Greece. There were lesser mysteries and greater mysteries, lots of purification practices, and ways to prepare to be transformed or alchemized in community together creatively for spiritual reasons, for reasons that we don't always know about this far in the future. But one of the other interesting elements of the mysteries was the way that these wise women who knew the land, who knew the plants, incorporated a kukion. a ergotamized grain beer. An ergotamized grain, if you don't know about it, ergot is sort of one of the precursors to what we all know as LSD. And so it's likely that participants and initiates in the Eleusinian mysteries were experiencing LSD-like effects while walking through a ritual theater that incorporated elements of the Homeric hymn to Demeter. And the Homeric hymn to Demeter is a story, but before we go there, I was curious about the psychedelic element. Like, why would a group of wise women incorporate a plant-based medicine to psychoactively employ in this way? I don't know, I wasn't there, but we do know that psychedelics help break down our ego and tend to encourage empathic understanding. Unified fields of consciousness become the bodies that we can resonate in under the influence of psychedelics. So I was curious about these things. And after 8 months of preparation and house concerts and potlucks and lots of organizing and lots of talking and lots of creating together, this is kind of a bird's eye view of what we created and experienced as the Rites of Spring. What you're looking at is a map that encompasses 5 acres of wooded and streamed and alive landscape that we used to walk our way through the story of Persephone's descent into the underworld. We had actors and actresses, witnesses, and people that participated by making amplified music, soundtracks, LED lighting, and theatrical flourishes, if you will. I wish I could really do more to express the magic of this event for this group of people, but I can't turn the lights off and bring you into, the stillness of the air when Persephone was finally buried in the cold soil of the dark forest, or the depth of silence as we all waited for her emergence and transformation. It's hard for me to really share the electricity in the air over the course of several hours as we infused our bodies together with ritual and magic, held by the land and guided by the land. Somebody did take a few pictures. This is an altar that a participant built for Demeter and Persephone. And after the experience, we all had a feast and danced all night like we should have here in the tent in the field here. Demeter's temple was built against the side of a cave across a broad, moving body of water, lit by candlelight, live fire, and this is where the group of us, 30 strong, witnessed Demeter's lamentation, screaming and mourning in community, looking for her lost daughter. I'm going to leave you all soon, and before I do, here are a few thoughts that I want to share. When we are dreaming alone, it is only a dream. But when we are dreaming together, it becomes a reality. It's up to us as artists and creative members of this community of purpose to dream together. What is the importance of doing things? Why do we do anything? And we really should think about why we do anything, because we are living in a moment. So let's make some good art. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Give some love. Jennifer Shower. Jennifer Shower. And we'll open it up to questions. Anybody have a question for Dan? Yes.
Is that land still there?
Is that land still there and untouched by the storm?
The land is still there, but it is certainly touched by the tempest. I don't know how long it's been now. 8, 9, 10 weeks. It's been constant work and healing and reinterpretation. But someone said something to me, thank you, Connie, when I came in here about this, and I really liked what she said. It's no longer about recovery, but it's now about discovery, because the place is so different and so new again. And speaking of cycles, it's the beginning. It was an end, it is a beginning. The land is still there.
Yes.
How do you get invited to
Oh, how do you get an invite? How do you score an invite?
Yeah, good question. We've talked a lot about doing it again, and it won't ever be the same. We never rehearsed that, and it was a mysterious one-time event. But I encourage everyone in this room to feel into ways that they could do this on their own and with their community, the people here. I'm sure there's lots of people who are interested.
Anyone else? You have a question? You were itching your eyebrow. I like your story. Anybody else with a question? Yes.
The image is similar to the one that's on the screen. Are those your art?
Is that your art?
This is my art. This is a collaborative effort between me and an image generation software you all know as Midjourney.
Anyone else? Okay, well, please give Dan Casciato some more love.